intro. How buddy boy?
Wow.
It's like
Technology.
I feel like Johnny Carson. You're like my Ed McMahon over here. You know what I'm saying? Wow. Hey, welcome to the Backstep, everybody. This is our new format. We're on podcast. We're recorded live, if that means anything. And I'm Ronnie K out of New York, and of course, there's my good-looking buddy over there with the big mustache. That's Tommy A. And we are the Backstep Boys, and we're very glad to be here. Want to thank our producer, Mark Howe, who's in the background. You can't see him, but he's working all the controls. And, the new format for some reason, they wanted me and Tom to be on video. This is unbelievable.
Here's the two guys that have faces for radio.
Exactly.
And now we're on video.
Remember, we met a Hollywood producer 4 months ago. We said, listen, we got a nice act. He says, you guys got a face for radio. Sorry. So here we are. But it's good to be with everybody. It's the summer is starting to creep up. I'll tell you, here in Tommy, it's been in the 40s at night and in 60s during the day. It's already the end of May in New York. It's crazy how chilly it is here.
Wow.
We have no summer yet. Is it changing by you, or is it normal, or what?
No, in fact, it's been kind of cool, especially in the evening hours. But according to the weather gurus, that's supposed to change like next week.
All right. Yeah. Well, we're waiting for summer. I mean, it's the calendar says it is, but I'm still wearing long sleeves and a tie during the day with uniform. A lot of guys went over to the summer uniform. They're wearing short sleeves, no jacket. They're freezing their cookies off. Not me. I'm too old.
It's delaying the inevitable because wildland season's coming. I know it, but it's getting here a little slowly.
Well, somebody said recently, Tom, and you could probably attest to this, but that there is no more wildfire season. It's all year round.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I know. I know you've been in the middle of it so many times, So, what people probably don't know at this point is as you know, I live in New York. Tommy lives in New Mexico, but he lives in the town of Farmington, New Mexico. And last week they had an horrendous mass shooting. Young man got out of a car with body armor and a gun and just started picking people off. And I called right away. As soon as I heard Farmington, I reached out for Tom and Lori to make sure that they were not in the line of fire. And of course, his daughter as well, who's a career captain in the county there. So, Tom, maybe you can walk our folks through what the hell happened and what the response might have looked like.
It started out like you would expect. It was sheer chaos. Both Lori and I heard the initial gunfire. She was paying closer attention to it than I was. And she asked if I heard it, and I said, yeah, kind of. It sounded like somebody hammering. Well, apparently I was wrong. And as soon as things started to escalate with the gunfire increasing, Lori went and switched her scanner over to Farmington PD and basically caught all the radio traffic from the get-go. Shitstorm is probably the proper description of what was going on in the initial stages. It took them between the coordination between police and three different agencies. The city police department, the county sheriffs had units coming in, and the state police. It took them a little while to get the coordination thing going, but when it came to, it worked well. They had a command post set up a little bit remote from the crime scene itself. But from the time where this guy started walking down the street in a fairly quiet neighborhood, he opened up fire and was shooting vehicles, shooting houses, shooting anything that he felt like shooting. And unfortunately, caused the deaths of 3 people who were in vehicles. 2 police officers were also shot while this was going on. Thankfully, that was not life-threatening. A female sergeant from Farmington PD got shot in the pelvic area, And from what I understand, a New Mexico State police officer, while he was driving through the area where the shooter was, got shot through his vehicle window in the hand and drove himself to the emergency room. Once things started calming down, you could tell there was further coordination between law enforcement and fire agencies. And from start to finish, from the time that dispatch got the first call for shots fired till the time the suspect was taken out by law enforcement was about 10 minutes. And I'm here to tell you that this was the first mass shooting that I've even been peripherally involved in, and it surprised me about how quick everything turned. But if I can tell you anything, if you're in the mindset that it can't happen to you, get past that. It's happening. This is the second one we've had in the county. A couple of years ago, you might remember there was a mass shooting at the high school in Aztec, New Mexico, kind of just a little north and east of where we are here. Get ready. We've been doing training here in Farmington and in the county. The local OEM, Office of Emergency Management, coordinated a lot of that stuff with the schools, but it kind of exposed us to recognizing the need for interagency cooperation and also what needs to occur to bring these things to some type of successful fruition. Kudos to all the law enforcement agencies here. The local police chief kind of became the mouthpiece for the information that was being released, and they were doing press briefings once a day to try to keep everybody. The statewide media out of Albuquerque was pretty much on top of this thing. They were up in force by that afternoon. Thankfully, it still tragically took the lives of three women. That it left a big hole in the community, and I think the mental health aspect of this, of making sure that those responders that are feeling like they need to talk to somebody, they need to reach out. And thankfully, we've got the resources here between the Red Cross and some other groups that are offering therapeutic sessions for people who feel the need that they need to talk to somebody about this. Even though I was not, involved in this, I knew a lot of the people that were, and I pray to God that we don't need to do the trainings for this, but I don't see it getting any better. Be prepared and understand what you're going to be up against. I'm sure there'll be some type of after action report on this thing, and hopefully I can get my hands on it and pass it on to others as lessons learned. And that's something that Ron and I have always talked about on this show, of making sure we heed the lessons. And there, but for the grace of God, we didn't have a line of duty death with law enforcement, and kind of take it from there.
Yeah, how big is the Farmington Police Department, Tommy? Like on patrol at one time?
Probably 25, maybe.
Okay, so that's 25 cars out there rolling around the city. Okay.
And of course, different divisions that are out there, and right. Some of the stuff that we would consider to be admin, like the training guys and some of the other upper command staff, were actually involved in the gun battle, just because they were so close. This really wasn't that far from either police or fire headquarters.
Yeah, and you know what? It's nobody's immune at this point. Nobody's immune. When we had the shooting, I was working in Connecticut when we had the shooting at the Sandy Hook school, when that animal took out 23 people, 20 kids and 3 adults, so whatever it was, 18 and 5. And nice little town, Sandy Hook, Connecticut. It's a new town, and it's quiet, and it's kind of rural-ish. Not rural like it, but rural-ish, and the suburbs.
Yeah.
And it's everything's nicey nice. You just put so that kind of that put the flag up for me, like, wow, nobody's immune. And then as it's happening, as we're still evolving here, and with the shootings, every other week, and then so nobody's immune. My last command before I went back to FDNY, I was a chief in a small town, a small affluent town in Connecticut, in Fairfield County. And we would because we were so close to Sandy Hook, and we were everybody was always very cognizant. So when I would go to town hall and see the town fathers about, improving our operation, and now, the last 6 months, last year I was there, we were working very closely with the police. We arranged some training, some realistic training. We had an outfit come in through the state and through the county to do some training, joint training, doing the task force thing, 2 medics in the middle, 4 cops in a diamond formation, 1 guy in the back, 1 guy to protect the team as they're going in. And we did some good realistic training, and then we were in the midst of looking at ballistic equipment. And you know what? This year at FDIC, Tom, there were guys showing ballistic equipment, and not just this year, the last couple of years. I mean, I would never, ever.
No, who thought?
You and I have been around a long time, as it says up on the thing. We wrote the Backstep, this is 48 years for me, and I think you're around 46 or 45. You're right in the neighborhood, right? So it never 20 years ago, we wouldn't even be talking about this, maybe 15, so it's one of these things that society has kind of bent this way, and we have to be prepared. It's the old Boy Scout motto, be prepared, but it holds. It holds. If in a community, if you're not even discussing this, if you're not talking about this, particularly with your police chief, then you're going to get caught short. You're going to get caught short. And I think one of the best examples we've seen of late, if you remember, Tom, when we had when they had the concert in Las Vegas, and the guy was up on the top on the upper floor in a hotel with the bump stock, and he was. And then we had our buddy on the show right after that, a Clark Lamping from Clark County Fire, Clark from Clark, right? And he talked about the thing, but he said if you get to see some of the footage, he says, we know we're target rich. It's Las Vegas. He said, so after 9/11, we started talking about this kind of stuff. But then as the shooting started to pick up, we said, you know what? We're target rich. There's a lot of people that come to the city with big venues, and just Las Vegas Boulevard. There's thousands of people just walking up and down the boulevard every night, going out for a walk. And so they've been training. You could tell they've been training for 3 years leading up to that shooting. And you could tell their operation went very, very well. And for you folks that didn't follow it, or you're young in the fire service, and you haven't looked at that case history, how they found the shooter, because he was on an upper floor in a hotel room, and he was shooting down on this open concert. People went to go see a concert. The smoke detectors gave him away. So that's how they pinpointed his location. He was shooting off so many shots. The smoke coming out of his rifles actually set off the smoke detectors in the room, and that's how security led the cops to that room. And he had a camera set up in the hallway that they didn't see. He took a tea serving cart and put dishes on it and stuff. He called room service, I guess, a few times, and left it there. And he put a camera. So he was able to see them coming down the hall. So as they came down the hall, he stuck the gun in his mouth, took himself out. But the smoke alarms, our fire system gave him away, for what it's worth. If you're not talking about this, if you're not thinking about it, if you're not having discussions with your police department, you're going to get caught short. Nobody is immune at this point. Nobody's immune.
No. And, further investigation into this thing has led law enforcement to the conclusion that there was a suicide by cop scenario. And I'm at a lack for words that somebody would think that's a good idea, shooting civilians in order to get the cops to show up so you can pull a weapon and have them take you out.
Yeah, not for nothing, but you could just stand in front of a patrol car with a pistol out and point it at the cop and just wait for him to get out of the car and take you away. I mean, that's pretty academic if you think about it. But Tommy, what I heard, I thought I heard on the radio that there was two women in one car and a woman in another car. The two women were mother and daughter, and mom was in her 90s.
Yeah, grandma was in her 90s.
Yeah, so like this
the
woman
daughter,
she made it to her 90s, and then this guy just took her out with a gunshot.
and completely random shooting on the street. Unfortunately, the two women that were killed, the mother and the grandmother, are the mother and grandmother of a Farmington firefighter.
Oh, is that correct? Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
It didn't hit the media, but funeral services are coming up towards the end of the week, and everybody's hurting.
I'm sure, because I'm thinking Farmington is not a big city. It's a small city, and everybody kind of knows everybody,
Yeah, the most of the community, I think, is at least familiar. Right. 35 square miles and a daytime population of about 100,000. So it's not huge. The county is kind of the residential community for the city. If people are working, generally they're coming into town to do that. But it'll. Again, I'm at a loss for words that for whatever is going on in your life that you think that's a good idea.
Yep. Well, a lot of this stuff defies explanation. I mean, some of the experts can't put it together. You and we're not expert in anything, so we're never going to put this together. Okay, a couple of dumb firemen sitting here, like, what the hell, But yeah, it kind of defies logic, and everything that we know is just and true and all that stuff. So I'm with you, and I think the whole nation, when this happens, your hearts go out to that community, those families affected, and everybody else. So I'm sure it's the same now.
Hey, there's a couple things I wanted to mention before we move into something else.
Sure.
Three things, really. April 1st, 1993 was the date that my friend Lou Sheets of the Chatham, New Jersey Fire Department made the supreme sacrifice. And my April 1st is not April Fool's Day for me. It's more my day of remembrance and trying to remember the legacy that Lou left. And I've mentioned in many of the articles where I've written about him, he was one of my first mentors. And I didn't know what the word meant at the time, but Lou was one of the first true safety advocates that I had met in the fire departments. And there was a bunch of us that hung out together, and people that Ron, Joe Wurzbacher, Ricky DeGroot, some of the crew that we use at the memorial service are the guys that I came up probably for my first 4 years in the fire service with. And Lou left a lasting legacy. He was struck by a chimney that had come loose from a residential structure during a collapse. And the report is still available on the New Jersey Division of Fire Safety website, and it was, of course, before NIOSH got involved in doing line of duty death investigations. But you can still pull that report up. And again, I always encourage taking those reports and doing at least some type of coffee table training with them. Talk about what some of the recommendations are, just so that, guys like Lou, their deaths are not in vain. And the stuff is out there, and it's still good stuff. And God bless him. I miss him every day. And he's always in my thoughts, especially around the time of April, and of course when we're at the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial. The other person we need to wish a hasty and hopefully quick trip to heaven is for Anne Murray Springer. I don't know how many of you remember Ann. She was a National Fire Academy icon and an EFO instructor there for many years. And she passed away here recently. And last but certainly not least on the congratulations list, Mr. Victor Stagnero, who
I know
was
him.
the chief operating dude for the National Fallen Firefighter Foundation, has been selected to replace, if you can replace him, Chief Ron Sarnecki, the executive director of the foundation. Victor is a great guy, somebody that Ron and I get to spend a lot of time with, especially for planning the Memorial Weekend. And I think they made the right choice. Victor's going to do a great job in that position. And much like the conversations that you and I have had, Ron, on not being able to replace people, uh, Ron Sarnecki, Bobby Houghton, God bless his soul. Uh, the guys that are coming in behind them, I think, are smart enough to realize that they can't be those people. They've got to be their own, and they're going to do great jobs in filling those spots.
Listen, it's not unlike Tommy, not unlike what Dave Rhodes said at the opening ceremonies at FDIC this year. Dave was spot on, man. He said people are telling me I got big shoes to fill, but I don't. He said Bobby got here wearing his shoes to this location, and I'm wearing mine, and we took separate paths to get to this one spot. I'm not here to fill his shoes. I got my own shoes on. He says, and I'm going to do the best that I can. His comments were just spectacular. The way he put that about filling somebody's shoes, and I think it's going to go the same way for Victor. I know Victor. When I started with the foundation, 1998, 24 years ago, or 25 years ago, Victor was the operations guy, and there was Tommy. There was 10 of us, and now we got 35. But there was 10 of us, man, and we talking about schlepping, boy. We slept 4 days. We slept and we never slept. So we would sleep on the way home while we were driving home on the turnpike. We'd nap while we were driving, so we got a little something in. But Victor was the guy up on the third floor of K building overlooking the infield, and we would just go up and down the stairs and say, "What do you got? All right, go over there and pick up 5,000 boxes and 850 chairs and move them over there. Okay, we'll be back." So I met him. He was like one of the first people I met when I started with this whole thing. And then of course over time we've been working together for 25 years, and he jumped into that managing director's position a couple of years back, and now he's going to be the big boss. And I will tell you, he talks to when he comes in to any meeting and he says, "Guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate what you do, and can't do it without you," and all those nice accolades that they give, not just me but to the team. He means it. And as Ronnie did, these guys really mean it. It would be nearly impossible to run the Memorial Weekend the way it runs now without the fire service supporting the full-time staff. Full-time staff, they're in that trench all day, every day, 365. There's only a handful of them. I think there's 15 or 20. And some of them have been there a long time. Jeannie Tobier and Bev Donlin, and I knew both of them before they had those names. I remember them with their last set of last names. Funny because I called Jeannie Moreland recently, like on the phone, and I went, "Wow, I can't believe I just said that," But some of them have been around for a while, and they swing away every day, and Charlie Jaster, and who, the rest of the team there, but the Memorial Weekend it's gotten big. It's gotten more pomp and circumstance, more gracious, more professional. We got 25 operating units. And so when guys like Ronnie and now Victor, they've always appreciated what the fire service does to help them put that weekend on together. And for us, as most of our listeners, now our watchers, not even listeners anymore, what our watchers tell us is that, and it's an honor for us to do it. It's just an honor for us to be there to do it. The best part of the whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, is when we get the letters from the families after the weekend, and most of them say, "I've got a little bit of closure, thank you." And that's to us, that's what melts our hearts and keeps us coming back because we're able to give our families closure. And frankly, that's the part in 2020 we didn't get because we didn't do a ceremony the year of COVID. And that's the part I remember calling Gary. Gary Critchbaum is our deputy IC. And I said, you know what, Gary? It was after that weekend when it should have been that weekend. We actually did a tribute by video that was produced by our video people. And it was 45 minutes, so we showed it right on that Sunday, and it went on streaming across the world, and it was okay, However, I called Gary that night, and I said, did you watch the video? He said, yeah, of course. We all watched it, And I said, here's my problem, Gary. The families could not have gotten any closure at all. They just saw their loved one on a video for a couple seconds. And that's the part that kind of ate us up in 2020, and we were so glad to get back in 21 and make it happen again. So I think I'm going to move right into this year. As you know, as most of you know, this was a first week in October gig for the first 35 years or so. And the board of directors of the foundation moved it to May. And the primary reason, in case you don't know, is because we have the looming federal government shutdown over our head every year because their budget starts October 1st. So there we are, doing all this planning all through the year, and then the government says, well, we're going to close everything down, which happened to us about, Tommy, when was that, about 10 years ago?
Yeah, and it happened twice.
I remember one time. That you remember twice?
I think so.
Nah, one time, because we went next door to door as a charity. We opened up a command center over there. I remember doing that once. We've relocated to Mount St. Mary's for rain many times. That's for sure.
Okay, but maybe I got something mixed up.
Yeah, the complete lockdown happened to us once since I've been around it for 25, and we may do. We did the best we could, but that looming shutdown is always there. So the board said, you know what? Let's go to the spring. We'll have it in May, and so with this particular year, we only had from October to May. We didn't have a full 12-month turnaround. We had 8 months instead, or so. And we pulled it off. We have, Tom, as you know, Tom's the operations chief. I'm the IC for the weekend. But we have some amazing people that work with us. I mean, we've got the A-team. We've got the friggin' A-team, no doubt about that. And everybody dug in deep and worked at it. I mean, we work at it all year round anyway. We're already working for next May. But everybody dug in really deep and to make it happen. And we had a beautiful weekend. It never goes without flaws. It's never flawless. But it's damn close. Damn close.
And the beauty of that is the families don't see what I lovingly refer to as the man behind the curtain. And, but I got to tell you, for all the years that I've been involved in this, and I got to thank you, Ron, for getting me involved, this was probably the smoothest one I've seen.
We've had one or two like this. There was the year, I think the year McGrath was still the IC. I was his deputy IC. And remember, I'll never forget, we walked across the hall. We're in Building S for you, National Fire Academy, folks. The command center was in Building S. We used the EMI side of the building, and we used their EOC, and we go live for the weekend. And across the hall, there's another classroom, but we use that as a layup room. That's for our work teams, our schleppers, our people who are moving. They moved the whole campus for 4 days, back and forth everywhere. And that's where they lay up in between assignments. And about 2:30 on Saturday afternoon, John McGrath, who was the IC before, chief from Raleigh, and before that, the chief of department in Philly, we came back from somewhere walking around. When we said, let's stop in and see if anybody's around. And we walked in, and all the teams are in there, and they're all fast asleep. All 30 guys are snoozing out. And I looked at him, and he looked at me. I said, John, we're in fucking trouble. He said, what do you mean? I said, there's no way that there's nothing to do right now. So we go running into the command center and we pull out the IAP, and we're going through stuff, and we're asking Tommy, I don't know if you took my place as ops chief, right?
Yeah.
So we're grilling Tom, and there's two Tommies. We have Tommy squared. The other Tommy's logistics, and we're saying, we're all caught up. Are you kidding me? There's nothing else to do. That was the only other weekend that kind of went like the weekend we just had 2 weeks ago. But absolutely. Even the weekends, we've had a lot of heartache, but that heartache is in the command center, and our families don't see it. They don't. It's we have to make it flawless for them. Okay, and we've had a couple of times. We had one of our staff members act out. Or he used a little foul language or something in front of families, and we ask him not to come back. Thank you for your service. Go. And we have our staff. Everybody goes into town to have an adult beverage on Friday night, and they come back and they want to fight. They want to fight with the armed cops at the gate at the National Fire Academy. They're federal officers. What are you fighting with them, idiot? Walk past, say goodnight, and crawl to your bed, and that's it. Get up in the morning, keep going. So those little things, but the families don't see it, and that's the most important thing. But we had a very, very successful year. This year's keynote speaker was the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. He did a fine job. He made a very good speech. He was very eloquent. And we took care of our families. That's what we do. We honored 144. It was 80 and change from last year. And the balance of the 60 and change were from years past, including the cancer deaths from the FDNY from 9/11. So 144 names went on the wall this year. And we had a good, successful weekend. And I can never thank the team enough. Ron Sonicki sent out a nice email to the command staff and says, pass this on to your folks and stuff. Because there's a lot of moving parts. We got 25 independent units that have to work, and that's my job, is to conduct that orchestra, so to speak, keep everybody on the same page. And everybody's doing their thing and doing it well, and we're all interlocked. Everybody knows what's going on, and communication is the key, just like on a fire ground. It's like a 10-alarm fire. So we do pretty well. We do pretty well. We got the right people in the right spot for the right reasons, and it's pretty cool. So one of the interesting things, Tom, that about 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, we had our last planning session in Emmitsburg, and I think it was 3 weeks. And one of our honor guard commanders, Toby Martin from Virginia, he said, attendance is a little light for honor guard pipes and drums. So we put them together in one unit. The honor guard, the pipes and drums together. They come marching across the field. They rehearse on Saturday. They come in on Sunday. They're in perfect lockstep. Those guys are the greatest, right? So he says, we only got about 250, 260, signed up. Now, we knew that the fast turnaround from October to May was going to be an issue for that, because, the guys are coming on their own dime. They're driving up, they're flying in, they're staying in hotels. It's not cheap. It's not cheap, and we get that. So we said, whatever we get, we get. Our thing is, the families who were there for the first time, they have nothing else to compare it to. If 100 guys walked across the field, it would look pretty impressive. So we got 250. So, all right, it'll be a band and an honor guard at 250. So they did a complete meeting. Our marketing department, we got a new gal in marketing, Kelly somebody. They hired two Kellys. That's the problem. So I don't know if it's Kelly Casillo or Kelly Lynch, but I think Kelly Lynch is the marketing Kelly. And they hit Facebook, and they hit Twitter and Feeder and the Backstep and all these other things, that you put out there. But I don't know any of that shit, right? I'm technically challenged. And in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, the band and the honor guard went to 500 like that. And that was, for me, that was so impressive. And so I kind of enamored with that. Like, wow, these guys rose to the occasion. They heard the call go out.
Yep.
The alarm came in. We got to respond. And they did. They did. And they were phenomenal. And they always are. Our good friend Odie was there from, I think he's living in Utah or something. He's somewhere out west. This was 2 weeks ago. He's still got 8 feet of snow in his driveway or something. There's still snow in there where he lives. But he's the band major. He's the stirrer in that drink. I know he's been coming for years, man. He's been doing it forever. And sure enough, they performed flawlessly. They were phenomenal, like they always are. The honor guard commanders really take it on big. But the fire service, as usual, in your normal fashion, rose to the occasion, showed up. We had a nice weekend. Tommy, any other thoughts on the weekend?
No. It just again, it's an honor for me to even be closely involved with all of that stuff, and my passion for lessons learned from those who went before us.
Yep.
And it was good. It was good.
Yeah, I think it's also worth mentioning. We recognized the Vigilant Hose Company in Emmitsburg. They've been giving us years and years of just service, and they're a volunteer outfit, and they're pretty busy. They have the exclusive logo on their rig is protecting the National Fire Academy. Nobody could say that,
Yep.
but they're the local fire company, and they're always there for us every year, whatever we need. And they've done different things, not just like give us a towel out to put a flag on. One year we needed a place to feed the staff. You could have the firehouse. You could set up your dining room in there. I mean, they're always there. So we had the president and the chief of the fire company come in, and we gave him a recognition plaque at one of our. We do five hot washes through the weekend, 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday. We get the whole command team together, all the 25 units, and we just go over stuff to make sure that we're all on the same page. So at the hot wash Saturday, we recognize them. We also had a plaque made for the Daughters of Charity. That's the beautiful facility next door with the basilica and all that, and they also support us. If we have a rainy Saturday night, we have our candlelight vigil in the basilica, and this is a place, they don't build them like this anymore. If you get to Emmitsburg, go next door and look at the basilica. It's like walking into St. Patrick's on Fifth Avenue, Manhattan. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So we're going to recognize them at another time and place. And then, of course, we gave Ron Sonicky a standing ovation. That was his last Memorial Weekend as the CEO, and for 23 years. So the staff gave him a nice standing ovation for all the work he's done, and just flying 300 days on an airplane, and that kind of stuff, just flying around the country, glad-handing people, begging for money, doing everything he did to bring the foundation to where it is today, setting up an incident command system for the Memorial Weekend, which we really didn't do before, and all that other stuff. He has a ton of accomplishments. So, we had a very successful weekend. So let's shift gears a little bit, Tom. There's a lot of chatter on the line about the construction site fire in Charlotte that left two construction workers dead. What I'm seeing, what I'm reading is that people are saying, okay, they said, whoever they are, right, that the Charlotte Fire Department was not prepared for a fire like this. They weren't prepared for a construction site fire or that kind of stuff. And of course, what do we always say, Tom? Keep your gun holstered. Wait till the investigation comes out. Don't be the keyboard cowards and start writing shit. But sure enough, this is what this folks say. Well, I didn't have this. They didn't have that. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. I don't know, what have you seen on this thing? Have you seen anything on it?
No, I have not seen much on it. But I look at the construction fires of the past. And, you talk about John McGrath. John had one in Raleigh. There was one in Maplewood, New Jersey a couple of years ago. I don't know whether anybody's prepared for that. It's a vertical lumber yard with absolutely no fixed fire protection in it whatsoever. They're designed to burn. And, again, we're kind of in the same boat of it's not going to happen to us. Well, guess what? Water is probably going to be the key to success. Now, listening to Chief Bertassini over the years saying that, it's pure physics. The only thing the fire is going to understand is the correct fire flow. And if you don't have that, you're going to look bad anyway. You might as well just get off of it, even though there was a loss of life with this. And I'm sure it's going to be looked at heavily. I got to agree with Ron that, keep the guns holstered till we've looked at all the data that's out there and figure out exactly what happened.
Yeah, because everybody's quick to rush to judge, and you really can't. You weren't there, but I will tell you, in the city, buildings under construction get inspected every 30 days by the local company, the engine or the truck, who's ever administrative company. Once it goes to 75 feet and becomes a high rise by definition, we have a unit in the Bureau of Fire Prevention that takes over. And the idea to those is, and that whole unit that we have, it's called CDA, Construction, Demolition, and Abatement. CDA came from the Deutsche Bank fire. when they were demolishing the high rise across the street from the Trade Center, and they built this huge maze of plastic walls and 2x4s to keep the dust down and everything. And they had already started to destroy the standpipe system. So when our guys got up there, they got lost in the maze. They had no water. We lost 2 firefighters up there. So CDA was stood up in after the Deutsche Bank fire. I think Deutsche Bank was 2007, if I'm not mistaken. And the CDA was stood up quick, right after that. So once the building hits high-rise status, CDA takes it, and they do it every 30 days. And the standpipe has to be built with the building. And we're not building shacks here. We're building 99-story buildings every day in this city. We're still doing high rises. Great article. I got to send it to you, Tommy. There's a 50-story high rise down in the Wall Street area that was going to be a residential. Mm-hmm. It's leaning 5 degrees off its foundation. Yeah. One of the chief inspectors sent an article out the other day because the local newspaper grabbed the whole of it. It's mad what they've done with this building. It's mad. Oh. So there was building department put violations on it. It's not occupied, and half of it is still open. Like the upper floors, they never enclosed it or anything. So we at least we're able to keep an eye on this kind of stuff. And I'm not sure where or who does inspections in Charlotte. We don't know if it's their Department of Buildings or the local company or whoever. None of that stuff is out. That's why it's hard to rush to judge. The shame of it is that they lost 2 construction workers there. So I guess we'll find out eventually. I like I said, I read what I read. I didn't know if you saw anything else. Not unlike we had the garage collapse 3 weeks ago on Ann Street. So this garage was built in 1923. So nobody in the world could be sitting there going like this. Wow, how'd that happen? Okay, in 1923. The only thing running around in the streets of New York were Model A and Model T Fords, which weighed about 500 pounds. You and I could pick one up by the bumper and flip it around, right? And horse carriages. What the hell do you think they were parking in there in 1923? Now, there's Suburbans. There's worse than a Suburban is a Tesla. It weighs twice as much as a Suburban. The battery-operated cars are twice as heavy. They're all 4,000-pound cars, the Teslas, the big ones. So now we got a garage full of this. From a 100-year-old building, okay, built for carriages and Model Ts and Model As, right? And it fell down. And the manager, the garage manager, was killed, but it was 10 after 4. If it was 5 o'clock, this would still be on the news. But they found the building department went in there. They found that they wrote a violation 20 years ago, and unfortunately, they didn't go back to check, to see if it was taken care of. There were cracks in some of the concrete. They found there was a steel beam in there somewhere that would look bad. So if you were not keeping an eye on this stuff at all times, it's going to fall through the cracks, so to speak. No pun intended. And we're going to have disaster, so interestingly enough.
Did you happen to see anything on the webinar that Lexipol was putting on, and Billy G was kind of heavily involved in this, but took a look at the 2 recent line of duty deaths. One where Battalion Chief Josh Laird in Frederick County, Maryland, was a line of duty death, and another one in Howard County, Maryland, where Lieutenant Nate Flynn lost his life in a fire. The common denominator of these is not only the size of the McMansions that the fires occurred in, but both dealt with issues of lightning and CSST. And if you don't know what CSST is, you better hurry up and take a look at it, because it's becoming almost as popular as some of the battery fires that we're seeing. But
I read a couple of quick articles on it. I did see a couple of quick articles on it. They
did a phenomenal job on the webinar. I watched it this morning. It's still up on Lexipol's website, and Billy G is basically talking with the fire chief from Frederick, a captain from Howard County, and the both of the surviving widows of Lieutenant Flynn and Battalion Chief Laird. that got to me. But these ladies are probably as well versed now with what CSST is and what some of the ensuing problems are with that. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, in a nutshell, it's lightweight gas flex tubing that does not hold up well over electrical issues. Lightning being the two in that, but back when I was still doing private investigation work for insurance companies, I looked at one up in a unnamed town in Colorado where the water system in this town is a little unique. Part of the water main passes underneath a bridge with a small tributary coming underneath it. And in the wintertime, it freezes. And what they had done for years to try to thaw that stuff out is take a welding machine and hook it up to the city water pipes to basically melt the ice in those things. Unfortunately, in this case, they thought they had the water pipe isolated going into a house. That became energized and in turn energized the gas system for that house and caused the failure of the CSST. That eventually arced the escaping gas from the gas line, ignited and basically burnt the house to the ground. Thankfully, nobody was home while that occurred. But that was the first time I had seen that and heard it kind of described and talked about some of the conflicting issues with building codes and whether a master plumber needs to install these things. I can guarantee you probably all got them in your first new districts. And the more we know about them and the more we know how to deal with them, I think the better off we're going to be. But if you get a chance, take a look at the webinar. A lot of great information, a lot of stuff that I wasn't aware of. And just it needs to make us more cognizant of recognizing that some of that stuff exists out there and how we're going to deal with it in the aftermath of a fire caused by that.
Yeah, it's. I was talking about this the other day about like we're never done in this business. Somebody said to me at work, "How long are you around here?" I said 48 years. I said, "I'm still," and I told them, I said, "I still open up a magazine, I read an article, and I say, wait a minute, how did I not know that?" But it's still evolving. This is an evolving thing that we're in. And we have to pay attention to stuff. This is something else that, like they say, it's something else to worry about.
Yeah.
An active shooter, something else to worry about. Years ago it was arson, and then it was hazmat. Something else to worry about. But that's why we're becoming this all-purpose, all-hazard organization. We're not just the fire department anymore. People call us for everything. So I had seen a couple of short articles written about that, and I knew the webinar was coming up, and I didn't get my eyes on it. But interesting stuff. This is the next thing. Lithium-ion batteries is the kind of the theme of the day, and this is like the sub-theme. They're kind of running parallel. So you got to keep reading. You got to keep reading. People ask me like, "How do you know all this stuff?" I says, "I read a lot, and I teach. You want to get good at something, teach it over and over again. It's repetition. You get muscle memory. How do you know all the dates of all the famous fires? I've lectured on them hundreds of times. How could you possibly know the date of the Triangle Shirtwaist fire?" I said, it's tattooed on my ass. The Triangle Shirtwaist fire date's tattooed on my ass.
You were on the second due engine on that.
Yes, I was the second due engine. Yes, March 25th, 1911. Thank you, Tom. Although my academy director told the young kids in school the other day, Chief Kanterman responded to the burning bush.
Yeah.
So there's that, and I'm not his friend anymore, needless to say. But
the bush was not consumed.
It was not consumed. That's correct. So yeah, it's ongoing, and if this is your job, if this is your passion, when I say your job, even as a volunteer, this is a full-time job. If you're a volunteer firefighter, this is another. You have 2 full-time jobs. You go to work and you get paid, and you do this and you don't. But this is a full-time job, and you have to consider it like that. So you got to stay sharp. You got to stay in it all the time. You got to touch it every single day. You got to touch it every single day.
The other thing I wanted to mention while we were together, even though it happened a little bit back, and we missed last month because of technical difficulties that Ron and I were having with the old format, and we couldn't get on, if I remember.
Yeah, we couldn't get. That's right. I forgot about that. We couldn't get into the radio system. Remember, Blog Talk Radio. That English. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. It's like talking to the Queen. You know?
But right around that time, that factory explosion occurred in West Reading, Pennsylvania, at the R.M. Palmer Candy Factory.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that incident killed 7 people and injured 11 others. They have determined that a faulty gas line may be involved in the ignition of that fire. But the thing that surprised me, I would expect that determination to be made by the Pennsylvania State Police or the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. But it came out of NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board. It was probably the first time I've been aware of the fact that they've been involved in an origin and cause investigation. But
okay, you said it was a gas line?
Yeah.
Okay, so the NTSB has jurisdiction over gas transmission lines or pipelines that run through the country, like the Buckeye pipeline does, liquid fuels. If that was a transmission line, okay, or it was a branch of a transmission line, then they have jurisdiction, the NTSB.
I did not know that.
I'll learn you some stuff. Don't worry.
You learned me a lot of stuff.
Yes, that's in fact, in D.C., they have the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Administration. So they're tied together, pipeline and hazmat. And then the NTSB, that's considered part of the transportation system, are the pipelines that run through the country, like the Buckeye and those kinds of pipelines, gas transmission lines, etc. So that would give them jurisdiction.
It, probably just, from seeing them be involved in aircraft disasters, I kind of thought maybe they had a narrower focus at that. But you did remind me, and I think I had heard that in the past, of the transmission lines be falling under their jurisdiction.
Yep, sure is. So I think we got. I got a couple of small ones, Tom. Our time is winding down, but there was a fireworks explosion in Massachusetts. Why? Because the guy was making them himself in the basement. That's why. Okay, and my involvement with fireworks. I did a book in 2008, and I'm a fireworks guy, and fireworks safety guy actually. But when I see those headlines, as soon as it said Massachusetts fireworks explosion, I said that's got to be some idiot trying to make them. And sure enough, he was trying to make them himself. So kids, don't try this at home. Leave it to the professionals. Okay, take your family out to the park on the 4th of July. Let them do it. That's what they do. And then one of the last things I have here, Tommy, we talk about this all the time, with reputation management, as we call it, and getting that black eye all the time. An Iowa fire chief, they threw him out and they charged him with misuse of funds, and that's the stuff that kind of, got one guy on TV that grinds my gears, It's just that we try so hard to create a reputation, and we're still the most trusted and honored service in the United States. The fire service is the most trusted and honored service in the United States, bar none. Okay, when it comes to domestic, of course, the military, they're in their own category. But when it comes to government agencies, the fire service is it. People trust their firefighters and they trust their fire chief more than anybody else in the city, in the town, wherever. But so we try really hard to maintain that reputation, and then these knuckleheads go and they do stupid shit like this. And you know what? We talk about it all the time. You go on to firehouse.com, okay, or you go on, fireengineering.com, and you look at the websites, and every once a week, some guy did something really stupid to tarnish the name, and it bothers me. And I know it does you too. We're in this for the right reasons, and don't be an idiot. In one of my commands, we went from a 3-on 3-off to a 24-hour system, and I had a guy acting out, and I called him in my office one day, and I said, on a 24/72 chart, you only work 8 days a month. Okay, you only have to be a good guy 8 days a month. You could be a moron and an idiot the other 22 when you're not here. Just be a good guy for 8 days. Can you be a good guy for 8 days a month and be an idiot and a moron the other 22? And he said, yeah, I guess I could do that. I said, okay, good. Get out of my office. Be a good guy 8 days a month. You could be a schmuck the other 22. I don't care. So the beat goes on, like they say. You got anything else of relevance, or would you like to go to the roll call?
I have the roll call.
Okay, let's do it, buddy.
The last time we were on the air was February 20th, and since then there's been 18 line of duty deaths across the nation.
Yeesh.
Paul Cloutier from the Webster Fire Department in Webster, Massachusetts, died from an unknown medical while responding to an incident, and that occurred on February 21st of 2023. Ethan Quillen from the Paw Paw Volunteer Fire Department in Michigan died when he was electrocuted at a fire scene, February 22nd. Ricky Hill from the Flint Fire Department in Flint, Michigan, a medical emergency at a scene on February 25th. Jason Amo from the Buffalo Fire Department died in a collapse at a fire scene on March 1st. William Bill Four from Brady Fire and EMS in Brady, Texas. This one kind of got to me. It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound at the fire station. And it, again, kind of relates to our importance to recognize some of our mental health issues. That happened on March 9th. Rocky Wood with the Virginia Department of Forestry in Charlottesville, Virginia, passed away from injuries in an ATV accident at a fire scene, March 9th. Matthew Smith from the Barrow County Fire and Emergency Services in Cartsville, Georgia, passed away from an unknown medical incident at a training on March 21st. Milton Butch Beach from Oak City Volunteer Fire Department in Oak City, North Carolina, had a heart attack at a fire department training on March 22nd. Jeffrey Pfeiffer from Deptford Fire Department in Deptford, New Jersey, suffered a heart attack while returning from a call on March 24th. Edward Heichel from the city of West Texas was hit by a vehicle while operating on an accident scene on March 28th. Jeremy Pelt from the Chicago Fire Department, Chicago, Illinois, had a mayday at a fire scene, which he passed away from on April 4th. Also in the city of Chicago, Jan Tojcik passed away from an unknown medical at a scene on April 5th.
Yeah, day apart.
Anthony, man, I'm having trouble with Divencord from the Sussex Fire Department in Sussex, New Jersey, suffered a heart attack after a call. Cody Mullins from the West Virginia Division of Forestry, struck by a tree at a fire scene on April 13th. Horace Wright from the Abbott Volunteer Fire Department in Abbott, Texas, was struck on the scene by a piece of fire apparatus. He succumbed to his injuries on April 14th. Fred Fiedler from the Chester Volunteer Fire Department in Chester, South Dakota, heart attack at a scene on April 22nd. Chester Lauk from Frederick County Fire and Rescue in Winchester, Virginia, suffered a heart attack after a call on April 23rd. And Roy Sewell from the North Tazewell Volunteer Fire Department in Tazewell, Tennessee, passed away from injuries sustained during a vehicle rollover. Their apparatus rolled on their way to a scene on April 24th. I ask again, please keep the families of the fallen in your thoughts and prayers, and learn the lessons that these line of duty deaths have left for us, so that these tragedies don't get repeated. With that, Chief Kanterman, that's pretty much all I got.
All right, thanks, Tom. So until we're up on the backstep again, please join us. I think we're on next month, and maybe we'll have a guest video person or something. What do you call them? A guest, best podcast, something. Somebody else other than you and me. How long can they look at us? These people must be
new pea in the pod.
They must be nauseous by now looking at me and you. You know what I'm saying? So
well, since you and I have faces for radio, it's
not good.
It's going to be interesting.
Imagine the disappointment on our audience when they saw us tonight for the first time. You know, they're sitting back for 11 years listening to us on the radio, saying, "Wow, that guy Ron, he must look like, he must like that Tom Cruise thing going on. And Tom, he's got that Paul Newman thing going. Imagine how freaking disappointed they are. We're sorry. We apologize. But till we're up on the backstep again. Listen, don't forget, be safe, slow down, buckle up, eat right, eat light, stop for red, use your head. Watch how you drive, arrive alive. Hug your wife, hug your kids, hug them tight when you say goodnight. So don't forget to do that, and tell your loved ones you love them. It's okay. Okay, it's not a sign of, and tell the brothers in the firehouse that you love them too. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So until we're back on the backstep again, that's about it. I want to thank our producer, Mark Howe from Fire Engineering and Clarion. Good night, Tom.
All right. Stay safe, everybody. I'll see you later.
Okay.